speak in this debate, as it always does, to speak on behalf of the great people of Peterborough. Whether I have this is the best job I'm ever going to have, and whether I have it for 2 more years or for 22 years, it's always a pleasure to talk about the issues that concern the great people of Peterborough. And one of the great concerns they have is around crime and disorder, and they would fully expect me to come to this place and talk about some of those issues. And we're very pleased, actually, to note that the number of police officers in Cambridgeshire is now at record levels. They've actually surpassed their recruitment targets for the 2nd year in a row, and it's incredibly welcome that we now have more police, as I say, than ever before. That's 145 new police officers this year, above the and this is on top, by the way, of what is normal expected recruitment levels, and this is above their target. That's 1,671 police officers in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, and they're on the streets of Peterborough right now, patrolling, preventing crime, and doing the things that the people of Peterborough would expect them to do. We're also at, I think, 13,570 extra police officers recruited so far. That's above our 12,000 target, which is obviously good news for the country. Now, I'm going to just really speak about 3 measures included in the Queen's speech in this debate. I'm going to talk about the Public Order Bill, I'm going to talk about the British Bill of Rights, and I'm going to talk about the Draft Victims Bill. Now, on the Public Order Bill, one of the most popular pieces of legislation from the last Parliament was the Police, Crime, Sentencing and Courts Bill. And in a funny sort of way, I was delighted when I saw expectedly Labour politicians opposing this bill, both here, obviously nationally, and also locally in my constituency, because it showed them, quite honestly, to be out of touch with the genuine concerns of the British people. I think sometimes members opposite seem to think that somehow Twitter is somehow resemblance the actual representative of public opinion. Well, I've got news for them, Mr Deputy Speaker. It is not. And the people of Peterborough are hugely supportive of measures taken against those who glue themselves to roads, those who disrupt ambulances, disrupt hard-working people going about their ordinary business. Action against those mindless fools who do that is hugely popular in Peterborough, as is, by the way, measures against unauthorised traveller encampments, which currently blight the picturesque village of Thorney in my constituency, preventing people using Thorney Park for football games. The Cubs were supposed to be using it, I think, this weekend for some activities. And unfortunately, this unauthorised encampment is preventing people from enjoying that public space, leaving rubbish, human waste and all sorts of other unspeakables in their way, and costing the taxpayers thousands for clear-up.
I thank the honourable member for Peterborough for giving way and enjoying his speech, but we all this summer were frustrated at roads being blocked, ambulances not being able to get through, fire engines. But would you not agree with me that actually the police already have the powers to deal with these things, and that they should be using the powers they have rather than adding others which will restrict the right of people in reasonable, fair, peaceful protests?
Well, the Honourable Lady makes a thoughtful intervention, and I agree with her that I wanted to see the police quite often actually act much tougher on people blocking ambulances, gluing themselves to the sides of roads. But what these powers will do, Mr Deputy Speaker, is give the police further powers, strengthen those powers that they have in order to get rid of those nuisances she quite rightly identifies. And this will add... Of course I will.
Would you not agree with me that stopping people blocking roads, sending criminals back to the country they come from, and ensuring that people are not enslaved to produce the goods that we consume are just common sense measures that most people understand and most people agree with?
Well, the honourable friend is absolutely right. He identifies that these are issues that hard-working people in this country, sentiments hard-working people in this country completely agree with, and I'm glad to be on their side. And I'd like to ask honourable members of the Labour Party to do me a favour. Please oppose the Public Order Bill, because what that will do, it will allow me to demonstrate to the people of Peterborough that once again the Labour Party are not in touch with them, their values or their concerns. So do us all a favour on this side of the House, vote against the Public Order Bill and give us an opportunity to demonstrate once again how out of touch they are. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the Bill of Rights, a British Bill of Rights. And I'd like to remind members opposite, this in fact was a manifesto commitment to introduce this, a manifesto commitment by which I was elected on, and this Conservative government was elected with an 80-seat majority. We have to do this. We promised the British people we would, and that's, I'm thrilled to say that's what we're going to do. It will rip up Labour's Human Rights Act, which enshrined the European Court of Human Rights into British law. It will stop criminals dodging deportation by vexatious and continuing legal challenges. It will stop judges from Strasbourg overriding British judges, and it will protect free speech and press freedom. But more importantly, what it will also do, as someone who understands that human rights are important, what it will also do, it will also restore public confidence in the law and in human rights. And that's why it's so welcome to be part of the Queen's speech. The last thing I want to talk about is the draft Victims' Bill. I feel sometimes that the criminal justice system doesn't resemble, and it certainly isn't on the side of the victims of crime. This principle, the fact that we are looking to legislate on this, shows that this government is on the side of victims. We want criminals to be scared of the law. We don't want the law-abiding majority to be scared of criminals. And the Victims' Code, putting that on a statutory footing, will ensure that victims' voices are heard. Because, Mr Deputy Speaker, I recall a story of a constituent who came to see me in one of my advice surgeries. I was told by this local mum about her son, how this young man was beaten up very, very badly in a bar in Peterborough, and she described the experience of the criminal justice system as almost re-traumatising. You know, she was pushed from pillar to post, and the very structures and the very resources that she thought were in place to support her and her son, they were found wanting. And this really did kind of stay with me. She felt let down, and they felt that they didn't have enough support when it really mattered. And that in some exchanges, they were made to feel almost like the criminal themselves, rather than the victims of the crime. And Mr Deputy Speaker, we really must do better. And the draft bill, Victims' Bill, is designed specifically to do just that. So it's got to be hugely welcomed. Mr Deputy Speaker, people in Peterborough, as I said at the start of my speech, want to be tough on criminals. They want to make sure that we protect the British public, and they want to see natural justice to be done. We had that in part in the last session with the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act. As I say, one of the most popular pieces of legislation in my constituency and in Peterborough. I know, Mr Deputy Speaker, from the measures announced in the Queen's speech, that once again, members on this side of the House and this government have shown themselves to be in touch with the people of Peterborough and in touch with the British public.
Terry McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The member for Peterborough that's just spoken